My son-in-law rudely invited the whole family on a luxurious vacation, but forgot about me. There's only enough money for tickets for us and my parents. I just smiled. Enjoy yourselves. When they arrived at the hotel, I was waiting there. Are you stalking us? Get lost, they shouted. But the security guard approached, and after his words, they fell to their knees, begging for forgiveness. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are listening in the comments. I set the table with the good dishes, the ones Margaret and I received as a wedding gift 40 years ago. White porcelain with the thin gold rim, only 3 pieces chipped after all this time. The evening light came through the curtains, same ones we'd hung in 1998, casting everything in amber. I'd made Jennifer's favorite, pot roast with carrots and potatoes, the recipe her mother perfected before the cancer took her. The name cards sat at each place setting, carefully printed. Small touches mattered. They arrived 20 minutes late. Kevin pushed through the door first, Jennifer trailing behind with her phone already out. His parents followed, Patricia in a silk blouse that probably cost more than my monthly electric bill, Dennis in a blazer with gold buttons. They looked around my dining room like tourists in a museum of poverty. Robert, Kevin's handshake was brief, dismissive. Thanks for having us. Of course, please sit. Dinner's ready. I'd positioned everyone carefully. Jennifer to my right, Kevin beside her, his parents across. The head of the table remained mine, at least. I brought out the roast on Margaret's serving platter, steam rising, the smell filling the small room. This looks quaint, Patricia said, her eyes scanning the walls, the dated wallpaper, the framed photos of Jennifer at various ages. I'm glad the promotion came through, Jennifer. You worked hard for it. She barely glanced up from her phone. These things happen when you network properly. The words stung more than she knew. I'd made 3 calls to former business associates, spent 2 hours on the phone with a hotel chain executive who owed me a favor, all to ensure her application reached the right desk. She thought it was her networking. Kevin reached for the wine bottle I'd brought, a 2015 Napa Cabernet I'd selected specifically for tonight, $60 I probably shouldn't have spent. He examined the label, eyebrows raised in what might have been approval. Now this is a decent vintage. Finally, something worth drinking in this place. He poured for Patricia first, then Dennis, then Jennifer. The bottle moved around the table in a careful circle, skipping my glass entirely before Kevin set it down at the far end, well out of my reach. Jennifer watched this happen. She said nothing. Kevin has such refined taste, Patricia said, sipping. We raised him to appreciate quality. Dennis leaned back in his chair, studying my dining room with the expression of an appraiser at an estate sale. Robert, have you considered updating? We just redid our kitchen. Granite countertops, stainless appliances, the resale value alone. These are wonderful curtains, Patricia interrupted, reaching out to touch the fabric between her thumb and forefinger like she was testing its thread count. They must be, 20 years old? They work fine, I said. Kevin shifted his chair, the legs scraping against the hardwood. He repositioned himself to create more distance between us, angling toward his parents, forming a wall with Jennifer in the middle. She turned her body to match his orientation, her back partially to me now. I passed the potatoes. Kevin took the bowl without looking at me. So, big announcement, he said, grinning at his parents. We're doing a family vacation, St. Thomas week long. Me, Jen, Mom, Dad, leaving the 21st. My fork paused halfway to my mouth. That sounds wonderful. What resort? Paradise Cove, 5-star, private beach. The works. He was animated now, gesturing with his wine glass. My wine. We only had budget for 5 tickets. Us and my parents. The mathematics of that statement hung in the air. 5 tickets. 4 people listed. The exclusion was deliberate. Calculated. I can cover my own expenses, I said, keeping my voice level. I'd love to join the family. Jennifer's phone slid across the table toward Patricia, vacation photos loading on the screen. Jennifer turned further away from me, leaning in to point at resort amenities. When she spoke, she didn't look at me. We need a break from you, Dad. The room contracted. Patricia and Dennis suddenly found their plates fascinating. Kevin jumped in quickly, his tone falsely apologetic. It's not personal, Robert. Just, you know how it is. Quality time with the immediate family. My hand had been reaching for the serving dish. I watched it freeze midair, detached, like it belonged to someone else. Slowly, I lowered it to my lap. The pot roast sat untouched on my plate, congealing in its own juices. Of course, I heard myself say. I understand. I stood, the chair scraping back. Let me get dessert. Nobody protested. Kevin was already refilling the wine glasses, everyone's but mine, as I walked to the kitchen. My plate was still full. Through the doorway, I heard Patricia asking about spa packages, Dennis suggesting golf excursions. Jennifer's laugh, light and easy, the way it used to sound when she was 12 and I'd take her for ice cream after school. I didn't get dessert. I walked past the kitchen, down the hall, up the stairs to my bedroom. Behind me, the conversation continued without pause, without my absence even registering. I closed the door and sat on the edge of my bed, still wearing the same jacket I'd worn to Jennifer's wedding, the same one I'd worn to her promotion dinner last month, the same jacket Kevin's family had just mocked. Through the floor, I heard more laughter, the clink of glasses. My wine, my table, my home, their celebration. Something shifted then, precise and cold, like tumblers falling into place inside a lock. The house settled into silence around 10. I heard doors closing downstairs. They were staying in the guest rooms, of course. Too much wine to drive home safely. My wine. I sat on the bed's edge, jacket finally removed, draped over the chair. The same chair where I'd laid out my clothes that morning, hopeful this dinner would bring us closer. Sleep wasn't coming. I knew that already. I removed my reading glasses, cleaned them with my shirt hem, put them back on. The bedroom looked the same as it had for 20 years. Margaret's jewelry box still sat on the dresser, empty now, everything inside sold to pay for her final hospital bills that insurance wouldn't cover. Jennifer had been 23 then, fresh out of college, crying at the funeral. I'd held her hand through the entire service. When did her hand let go of mine? The memories came in fragments, non-linear, each one sharp. The wedding, $35,000, most of my savings at the time. Jennifer in her dress, radiant, Kevin beside her looking vaguely uncomfortable in his tuxedo. I'd written the check thinking, this is what fathers do. This is love made tangible. The car. $15,000 for the down payment on their Tesla, the one they drove past me last Christmas without stopping, heading to Kevin's parents for dinner. Just a loan, Dad. We'll pay you back. That was 4 years ago. I'd stopped asking about repayment after the first year. The furniture for their first apartment. The emergency roof repair they couldn't afford. The credit card bill, $8,000, that Kevin explained away as temporary cash flow issues. Every time I'd written the check, every time Jennifer would hug me and say, "You're the best, Dad." I stood, restless, and walked to my home office down the hall. The laptop sat on the desk, password protected, containing a life my daughter knew nothing about. I opened it, entered the code, watched the screen illuminate. 4 properties. The hotel in Tampa I'd bought in 2008 when the market crashed, renovated, turned profitable within 18 months. The boutique inn in Sarasota, acquired in 2012. 2 bed and breakfasts in St. Augustine, purchased as a pair in 2019. All managed through Wilson Holdings, LLC, all generating steady income, all completely invisible to my family. Current total value, $3.2 million. I'd built this empire quietly, deliberately, after Margaret died, working double shifts at the hospital where I'd been a facilities manager, saving every extra dollar, learning real estate investment through night classes and weekend seminars. The LLC was registered under my middle name, Thomas, to keep it separate, private. I told Jennifer I was taking on extra work to stay busy. She'd never asked for details. I opened my spreadsheet. $70,000. That was the conservative estimate of what I'd given them over 12 years, not counting tonight's dinner, not counting the phone calls I'd made to secure her promotion. $70,000, and they needed a break from me. Around 3 in the morning, I walked to Jennifer's childhood bedroom. The guest room now, stripped of most personal items, but a few photos remained on the wall. Jennifer at 8, gap-toothed, hugging me at Disney World. Jennifer at 16, holding her first-place debate trophy, my arm around her shoulders. Jennifer at 21, College graduation, her smile genuine and proud. I touched the frame. The glass was cool under my fingertips. When had that girl disappeared? Dawn came slowly, gray light creeping through the windows. Around 7, I heard voices downstairs. Low, conversational. Jennifer and Kevin, awake early, talking in the kitchen. I moved to the hallway barefoot, staying close to the wall. The old house had good acoustics if you knew where to stand. At the top of the stairs, their voices carried clearly. We just need to approach it right. Jennifer's voice, that careful tone she used when manipulating situations at work. Make him think it's his idea. He's sitting on equity he doesn't need. Kevin, dismissive as always. This house is way too big for one person. I pressed my back against the wall, listening. He's stubborn about it, Jennifer continued. But if we frame it as simplifying his life, the old man doesn't have expensive taste anyway. Probably be happier in a one-bedroom. Jennifer's laugh, small, complicit. He did wear that same jacket to my promotion dinner and my wedding. I looked back toward my room, where that jacket hung on the chair. Same one. She was right. Once we get the house sold, Jennifer said, her voice gaining confidence, we can pay off the cards and maybe look at that bigger place in Winter Park. Your dad won't even notice the difference. He'll just be happy to help the family. Kevin's tone twisted the phrase into mockery. Help the family that needed a break from me, the family planning to convince me to sell my home, Margaret's home, so they could upgrade theirs. I returned to my bedroom with the same careful precision I'd used to approach the stairs. Closed the door silently, sat at my desk, opened the laptop again. My hands didn't shake. That surprised me. They should have shaken. Instead, they typed, Paradise Cove Resort, St. Thomas for sale. The listing loaded. Luxury beachfront property, 80 rooms, private marina, established clientele. Asking price, $1.85 million. The photos showed pristine beaches, infinity pools, couples drinking cocktails at sunset. The same resort where my daughter planned to vacation without me, funded by my wine money, my dinner hospitality, my endless forgiveness. I opened my leather journal, the one where I tracked my hotel acquisitions, wrote financial notes, planned expansions. On a fresh page, I wrote the number, $1,850,000. Then I wrote August 16th. Then I wrote Paradise Cove. My handwriting was steady, precise. I stared at those words for a long moment, then checked the property details again. Owner retiring, motivated to sell, closing possible within 60 days. Contact, Martin Reeves, Commercial Properties International. Downstairs, Jennifer and Kevin were probably making coffee now, planning their pitch to get me to downsize, to simplify, to free up money for the family. I looked at my laptop screen, at that resort glowing in Caribbean sunshine, and something crystallized in my chest. Not rage. Rage was too hot, too chaotic. This was colder, sharper. This was clarity. I pulled up my business bank account, the one Jennifer didn't know existed. Available liquid assets after reserving operating capital, $2.1 million. Paradise Cove Resort, St. Thomas, I said aloud to my empty room. For sale, $1.85 million. I wrote it again in my journal, underlining it twice. The sun was fully up now, light streaming through those old curtains Patricia had mocked. Downstairs, my daughter was planning to take my home. In 10 days, she'd be lying on a beach I was forbidden to visit, drinking cocktails I was deemed unworthy to share. I smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. The laptop screen still glowed with Paradise Cove's listing when dawn broke fully. I'd been at this desk for hours, coffee growing cold in the mug beside me. Sleep seemed irrelevant now. My body ran on something sharper than caffeine. Purpose, maybe, or the clarity that comes when you finally stop pretending. I heard movement downstairs around 8. Jennifer's footsteps. Familiar rhythm after 35 years, heading toward the kitchen. I waited 3 minutes, then followed. She stood at the counter pouring coffee, still in her pajamas, hair pulled back. I'd set out her preferred creamer earlier, French vanilla, the expensive kind. Small details. I still knew them all. Morning, I said, reaching for a mug. Hey. She didn't look up from her phone. I poured slowly, measuring my tone. Kevin mentioned you're taking a trip soon. Somewhere tropical. St. Thomas. Paradise Cove Resort. We leave next week. Sounds lovely. How long? Week. The 21st through 28th. She sipped her coffee, scrolling through something on her screen. She didn't ask if I'd reconsidered joining. The exclusion was settled fact, not worth revisiting. Well, enjoy it, I said. You've been working hard. Thanks. She glanced up briefly, almost surprised by the sentiment, then returned to her phone. Kevin's voice carried from upstairs. He was on a call, something about quarterly projections. Jennifer finished her coffee, rinsed the mug, and headed back toward the guest room. I listened to her footsteps fade, then returned to my office. Paradise Cove Resort, August 21st through 28th. 7 nights. I pulled up satellite imagery. The property sat on the northwest coast of St. Thomas, tucked into its namesake cove. 25 rooms arranged in a horseshoe around a central pool. Single road access. Nearest competitor marked 15 miles north. Boutique operation, independent ownership, recently listed due to, I scrolled through the realtor's description, owner's urgent financial situation. Motivated seller, my favorite words. I opened my locked drawer and extracted the files I'd need. LLC documentation for Wilson Holdings. 3 years of tax returns showing legitimate business income. Bank statements proving liquid assets. Evidence of capacity. Then I reached for my phone. Robert Wilson calling for account services. The banker picked up on the second ring. I'd been with this bank for 20 years, moved enough money through their hands to warrant immediate attention. Mr. Wilson, how can I help? I paced to the window, watching Jennifer and Kevin load their cars outside. Workday, routine. They had no idea. I need access to $1.9 million within 48 hours. Combination of liquid accounts and the credit line against the Tampa and Sarasota properties. Silence. Then, that's aggressive timing, Robert. May I ask? Investment opportunity. Time sensitive. Can you do it? I'll have preliminary approval by end of business today. Good. I'll wait for your call. I hung up before he could ask questions. Through the window, Jennifer's car pulled out of the driveway. Kevin's followed 30 seconds later. The house settled into quiet. I spent the next 4 hours researching everything about Paradise Cove. Ownership history, revenue patterns, guest reviews, mostly positive, some complaints about dated decor and slow Wi-Fi. Staffing structure, lean operation, general manager named Amanda Parker, running day-to-day, owner increasingly absent. Current occupancy rate, 62%. Plenty of room for improvement, but the bones were solid. The bones were perfect. By 2 in the afternoon, I'd drafted my approach. I called David Richardson's office, got his secretary, scheduled an emergency consultation for 4 o'clock. Then I drove downtown, 20 minutes through Orlando traffic, rehearsing my explanation with each stoplight. Keep emotion out. Present this as business with personal motivation, not revenge. Strategic acquisition. David's office occupied the 14th floor of a glass tower on Orange Avenue. He met me in the conference room, tie loosened, reading glasses perched on his head. Robert, your message said urgent. I spread documents across his polished table. The Paradise Cove listing, my financial statements, a handwritten timeline showing I needed ownership by August 20th. He studied them, expression shifting from curiosity to concern. You want to buy a hotel in the Virgin Islands in 72 hours. Yes. May I ask why the impossible timeline? My daughter is vacationing there August 21st. She doesn't know I'm buying the property. I need to own it before she arrives. David removed his glasses completely, set them down with care. That's... Robert, I understand there's personal motivation here, but acquiring commercial property in the Virgin Islands with 72 hours of due diligence is professionally inadvisable. The property is already listed. The owner is motivated. I have the capital. What's the actual legal risk? He sighed, the sound of a lawyer recognizing a client who won't be deterred. Title issues, undisclosed liens, structural problems. You're buying sight unseen. I'm buying strategically. And this? He tapped my notes about the house. You want your Orlando property in an irrevocable trust? With me as sole trustee and beneficiary, no one can force a sale without my consent. You understand this means Jennifer can't inherit it in the standard way if something happens to you? I understand perfectly. David studied me across the table. Whatever he saw there, and I knew what he saw, the same cold clarity I'd felt since dawn, made him nod, slowly. I'll need to bring in a Virgin Islands attorney, someone local who knows the territory. Do it. Bill me whatever it costs. Robert? He leaned forward. What did she do? I met his eyes. She needed a break from me. I'm giving her one. He didn't press further. Smart man. I left his office at 5:30, drove home through rush hour, called Michael Thompson from the car. Thompson Notary Services. Michael, it's Robert Wilson. I need trust documents prepared. My residential property transferred to a personal trust. How quickly can you draft them? Standard timeline is a week for review. I need them in 3 days. Silence stretched. Then, that's possible. My expedited rate is, whatever it is, fine. Send the paperwork tonight. I'll have it by email within 2 hours. Back home, the house felt different. I walked through rooms I'd lived in for 26 years, seeing them as Jennifer and Kevin saw them. Dated, small, beneath their aspirations. The curtains Patricia had mocked. The dining room where I'd served pot roast while they poured my wine for everyone but me. This was still my home. They would never take it. My phone rang at 7. The banker. Mr. Wilson, your credit line is approved. 1.9 available Monday morning. Perfect. The purpose of loan is listed as commercial property acquisition. Is that correct? Yes? Very good. We'll have documents ready for signature. I made one more call that evening. Martin Reeves, Commercial Properties International, the listing agent for Paradise Cove. Mr. Reeves, my name is Robert Wilson. I'm interested in the Paradise Cove resort property in St. Thomas. Is the owner accepting offers? His voice brightened immediately. Absolutely. When would you like to schedule a viewing? Tomorrow. I can be there by afternoon. That's very soon. You're flying in from Orlando. I'll book tonight. This is a serious inquiry, Mr. Reeves. I have proof of funds and can close within 48 hours. I'll contact Mr. Clark immediately. He'll be very pleased. Good. I'll call when I land. I hung up and opened my laptop to airline bookings. The screen showed flights to St. Thomas, departure times, prices. My finger hovered over the purchase button for American Airlines Flight 1847, departing 9:30 tomorrow morning. Across town, Jennifer and Kevin were probably having dinner somewhere nice, celebrating their upcoming vacation. Paradise Cove, their private week, their break from me. I clicked purchase. The confirmation email arrived instantly. Boarding pass attached. Departure 9:30 a.m. Arrival 3:15 p.m., accounting for the time change. Plenty of daylight left to see the property, meet the owner, start negotiations. I forwarded the flight details to David Richardson with a simple message. I'll need that VI attorney's contact info before I land. His reply came back within minutes. Already arranged. William Clark expects you at 4 p.m. tomorrow. His attorney will have preliminary documents ready. Robert, be careful. I closed the laptop and looked around my office. The hotel files, the trust documents Michael would send, the proof of funds letter from the bank. Everything in order, everything aligned. In 3 days, my family would board a plane to Paradise, excited about their exclusive vacation, their break from the old man who embarrassed them with his dated curtains and worn jackets. They had no idea what was waiting for them. I allowed myself a brief nod, not a smile, nothing so obvious, and began packing my briefcase for tomorrow's flight. The flight landed in late afternoon heat, the kind that hits you like a wall when the cabin door opens. Cyril E. King Airport was smaller than I expected. Tourists everywhere in bright shirts and straw hats. Families dragging roller bags toward rental car counters. I carried only my briefcase. This wasn't vacation. The taxi driver knew Paradise Cove without needing the address. Nice place, he said, pulling away from arrivals. You staying there? Business meeting. He nodded, navigating through Charlotte Amelie's narrow streets, past cruise ship terminals and duty-free shops, then up into the hills. The road wound along the coast, occasional glimpses of turquoise water between palm trees and resort developments. 15 minutes later, we turned onto a private drive marked by a weather-worn sign, Paradise Cove Resort. The property was smaller than the photos suggested, a horseshoe of 2-story buildings painted pale yellow, arranged around a central pool that needed resurfacing. The lobby sat at the horseshoe's base. Worn tile floor, ceiling fan clicking unevenly, furniture that had been expensive once but showed its age now. Beautiful bones beneath the neglect. A man waited in the lobby, late 50s, shoulders slumped in a way that spoke of defeat before we even shook hands. "Mr. Wilson?" "William Clark." His grip was weak. His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Thank you for meeting me on short notice. When someone says they can close in 48 hours, I make time." He gestured toward the grounds. "Would you like a tour?" We walked the property slowly. William pointed out features, the renovated kitchenettes in each room, the private beach access down a stone stairway, the small restaurant that served breakfast, included with room rate. His voice carried the tone of a man reciting facts he'd repeated too many times, hoping they'd sound better with repetition. "I built this place 20 years ago," he said as we reached the pool, "poured everything into it. Market changed, big resorts moved in, and I understand. Business is timing." He looked at me with something like gratitude. "You're not going to tear it down, turn it into condos?" "I'm keeping it as a hotel. I have plans for it." Relief washed across his face. We continued walking, past rooms with ocean views, standard rooms facing the garden, the small gym with equipment that hadn't been updated this decade. Everything functional. Nothing failing, just tired. A woman emerged from the office building, tablet in hand, professional despite the heat. Early 40s, dark hair pulled back, efficient movements. "Mr. Clark, the Johnsons checked out early. They're requesting a partial refund for—" She stopped, seeing me. "Amanda, this is Robert Wilson, potential buyer. Amanda Parker, my general manager." She extended her hand without hesitation. Firm grip, direct eye contact. "Will you be keeping the current staff? We're small, but efficient." "I'm evaluating everything. What's your role here?" "General manager. I handle daily operations, bookings, guest services." "How long?" 8 years. I nodded. 8 years meant she knew every system, every guest complaint, every vendor relationship. That knowledge had value. "Good. I'll need that." We left her returning to her office and continued to William's space, a cramped room behind the front desk. Paperwork stacked on every surface. Computer showing an outdated reservation system. He gestured to a chair and I sat, briefcase across my lap. "Your listing says 1.85, I said. "I can close in 48 hours at 1.72. All cash, minimal contingencies." William's fingers drummed the desk once. That's acceptable. When can we start paperwork?" "Today. Now." I opened my briefcase, pulled out the offer David's office had prepared. William read it slowly, lips moving slightly. When he looked up, something had shifted in his expression. Hope, maybe, or just exhaustion ending. "You're serious?" "Completely." I slid my bank letter across his desk. Proof of funds. Ability to close immediately. He read it twice, then set it down with the careful precision of someone handling something precious. "I'll call my attorney. We can have preliminary documents by tonight." "I'll be at the Marriott if you need me." I stood, extended my hand. "We'll close this, William, by Friday." His handshake was firmer this time. I spent that evening with David's Virgin Islands contact, a sharp-eyed attorney named Sarah Chen, who walked me through title documents, inspection reports, and existing bookings with the speed of someone who'd done this too many times. She flagged minor issues, permits needing renewal, vendor contracts transferring with ownership, staff employment agreements. "The property is sound," she concluded around midnight. "Financially distressed, but structurally solid. If you're comfortable with the accelerated timeline, I see no reason not to proceed. Draw up closing documents. I want to sign Friday morning." She nodded, already making notes. By Thursday afternoon, we sat in William's office again. Him, me, Sarah, and William's attorney, handling the final review. Numbers aligned, documents signed. I wired the deposit, $172,000, 10% down. William's hand trembled slightly when we shook on it. "You're saving my life," he said quietly. I didn't respond. This wasn't about saving anyone. Friday morning, the final closing took 3 hours. Wire transfers, title transfers, keys exchanged, ownership documents filed with the Virgin Islands Recorder's Office. By noon, Paradise Cove Resort belonged to Wilson Holdings, LLC. I sat alone in what was now my office, reviewing the paperwork with the strange detachment of someone who'd just executed a plan that still felt surreal. Then I opened Amanda's reservation system, scrolling through August bookings. There, August 21st through 28th. Morgan Party, 4 guests. Deluxe Ocean View Suite. Prepaid deposit, balance due at checkout. I took a photo of the screen with my phone, then called Amanda to my office. She arrived within minutes, professional wariness in her expression. New ownership meant uncertainty, and she was smart enough to be cautious. Amanda, thank you for coming. Please sit. She sat, tablet ready, prepared to take notes or defend her position. I wasn't sure which. I'm keeping you on as general manager. Your salary increases 15%, effective immediately. Her eyes widened slightly. Thank you. You'll earn it. I have specific instructions regarding operations. First, I pulled out the handwritten list I'd prepared. These room reassignments and pricing adjustments take effect August 21st. She scanned the list, frown deepening. These are significant changes. Some guests have already confirmed reservations at current rates. Ownership changed. Terms changed. Virgin Islands booking law allows modifications with 72 hours notice. That's technically correct, but guests won't be happy. There's one reservation in particular. August 21st. Morgan Party. 4 guests. She checked her tablet. Yes. Deluxe Ocean View. Week-long stay. Change it. Standard room. No Ocean View. Apply new pricing structure. 40% increase across all services. Amanda looked up slowly. But they've already confirmed at the old rate. New ownership, new terms. They'll be notified Monday. That gives them 74 hours. She studied me for a long moment. This is personal. I held her gaze. This is business. Will you follow these instructions? Another pause. Then she nodded. Yes, sir. When they arrive and express surprise about the changes, you will inform them that I am the owner. Not before. Understood? Understood. Good. I'm flying back to Orlando tomorrow. You have my contact information for anything urgent. Otherwise, I trust your judgment on daily operations. She stood, still holding the list, clearly processing what this meant. May I ask, the Morgan Party, who are they to you? Family, I said. They wanted a break from me. I'm ensuring they get exactly what they asked for. Understanding dawned in her expression, followed by something that might have been sympathy or might have been respect. She didn't ask further questions. I'll make the changes today. Thank you, Amanda. After she left, I sat in the quiet office reviewing staff files, vendor contracts, operational procedures. This wasn't just revenge theater. I'd bought a real business, and I intended to run it properly. The hotel would succeed. That was important, not for the money, but for the principle. I'd built something from nothing before. I could do it again. That evening, I stood on Paradise Cove's beach, feet in sand still warm from the day's sun. The cove curved around me in both directions, private and pristine. Waves lapped gently against the shore. 2 days from now, Jennifer and Kevin would stand in this exact spot, expecting their exclusive paradise vacation. They would find something very different, waiting. I slipped the ownership deed into my briefcase and closed it with a quiet click. Tomorrow, I'd fly home. I'd maintain normal behavior. I'd wave goodbye when they left for the airport on Sunday, wish them a wonderful trip, play the role of the excluded father accepting his fate. Monday morning, they'd receive Amanda's email about the ownership change and policy updates. By the time they understood what had happened, they'd be mid-flight, unable to cancel, and I would be home, sitting in my dated house with my old curtains, waiting for the phone call I knew would come. The sunset painted the cove in shades of orange and gold. Paradise, indeed. I turned and walked back toward the hotel, my hotel, to pack for tomorrow's flight. I'd returned to Orlando before dawn, my suitcase hidden in the back of my closet before the sun rose. The flight from St. Thomas had landed just after midnight, and I'd taken a taxi home through empty streets, rehearsing normalcy with each passing mile. By morning, there was no evidence I'd ever left. Jennifer appeared in the kitchen around 9, already making lists on her phone. Vacation mode had settled over her, that distracted excitement I remembered from when she was younger, planning trips with Margaret. Different now, though. This time I wasn't invited. Dad, have you seen my blue beach bag? I appeared from the hallway with it. Hall closet. I cleaned it after last summer. She took it without meeting my eyes. Oh, thanks. I'd made coffee, set out her preferred creamer. Small gestures that cost nothing, meant everything once. Now they barely registered. Weather looks perfect, I said, pulling up the forecast on my tablet. Low 80s, sunny all week. Great. I helped her pack through the morning, finding her favorite swimsuit, checking that her phone charger would work with Virgin Islands outlets, folding clothes the way Margaret had taught me 40 years ago. Each movement was methodical, familiar, bitter. I placed the swimsuit in her luggage with the same care I'd use later to dismantle her expectations. Kevin arrived around noon, hauling their shared luggage like he owned the place. He surveyed my assistance with a smirk. Playing bellhop now, Robert, I continued, folding a beach towel. Just helping Jennifer. He dropped into my recliner, the one Patricia had judged during dinner, and checked his phone. Travel is expensive. We're already stretched thin with this trip. The opening I'd anticipated. I pulled 5 $100 bills from my wallet, counted them deliberately, and held them toward Jennifer. Here, 500, pocket money. She took them without thanks, stuffing them in her purse. Kevin watched the exchange, then muttered just loud enough for me to hear, "At least the old man's good for something." I smiled faintly, said nothing. They left around 2 to handle last-minute errands. I continued my performance, washing lunch dishes, straightening the living room, acting like a man resigned to a quiet weekend alone. Through the window, I watched Kevin's car disappear down the street. Then I went to my closet and pulled out the overnight bag I'd packed that morning. Jennifer called around 6 from Dennis and Patricia's house, where they'd gather before tomorrow's early departure. "Dad, we're leaving at 10 tomorrow morning. Just wanted to let you know." "Have a wonderful time." A pause, almost guilty. "We'll send photos." "I like that." After hanging up, I picked up my bag. My expression hardened. By 7, the street was quiet. I carried my bag to the corner, 3 houses down, where I'd arranged for a different taxi service to pick me up. No chance of Jennifer or Kevin driving past, seeing me leave. I was covering tracks they didn't know existed. The evening flight to St. Thomas departed at 8:15. I sat in coach, briefcase on my lap, going over final details. Amanda's protocols, staff assignments, the precise moment of revelation. This was theater, and I was directing every scene. We landed at 11. The humid night air hit me as I descended the stairs to the tarmac. That tropical weight, fragrant with salt and vegetation. A taxi carried me back to Paradise Cove through darkness, past shuttered shops and sleeping resort towns. My hotel, my property, my stage. I slept 4 hours in a small staff apartment Amanda had prepared, then rose at 6. While I showered in St. Thomas, Jennifer was probably waking in Orlando, checking her flight details one more time. While I dressed in business slacks and a pressed blue shirt, Kevin was likely making coffee in Dennis and Patricia's kitchen, eager to start their exclusive vacation. While I reviewed staff assignments in my office, they were loading luggage into Dennis's SUV. 2 stages, 2 performances, about to collide. At 8, I gathered the staff in Paradise Cove's small conference room. Amanda sat at the front, tablet ready. Marcus, our security coordinator, leaned against the wall. 2 housekeepers, the restaurant manager, the front desk clerk, everyone who'd interact with the Morgan party. I distributed printed instruction sheets, professionally formatted, leaving nothing to interpretation. "The Morgan party checks in at 3 p.m., I said. "Party of 4. They're currently assigned to rooms 12 and 14. Amanda confirmed on her tablet. "Standard rooms. Not the deluxe ocean view suite they originally booked?" "Correct." I made eye contact with each staff member. "They will complain. You will explain the room reassignment was necessary due to ownership transition. You will be professional and firm." The younger housekeeper raised her hand. "Is there a problem with these guests?" "Just follow the protocols exactly." After the meeting dispersed, Amanda lingered. "You're really doing this?" "Every word of those protocols, exactly as written." She studied me for a long moment. "And when they see you?" I checked my watch. 11 a.m. local time. The Morgan family was boarding their flight in Orlando right now. Dennis probably telling nearby passengers about their exclusive boutique resort. Patricia showing photos on her phone. They were walking down the jetway into a plane that would bring them here, to me, completely unaware. "They'll see the owner of this property," I said. "Nothing more, nothing less." Amanda nodded slowly. She'd chosen her side. I spent the next hours inspecting preparations, walked through rooms 12 and 14, standard accommodations with parking lot views, tested the water pressure, functional but weak, nothing like the rainfall shower in the deluxe suite they'd expected. Checked the air conditioning, worked but noisy, humming loudly enough to interfere with sleep. Everything was adequate. Nothing was wrong. Nothing was right. At 2, I changed into my business attire, checked my reflection in the office mirror. Composed, professional, the owner of a Caribbean resort conducting normal operations. No hint of the father they'd excluded, mocked, planned to manipulate. At 2:30, I reviewed Amanda's screen one final time. Flight 1847 from Orlando, landed on schedule. They'd be collecting luggage now, finding a taxi, heading this way. At 2:47, I heard gravel crunch in the driveway. I straightened my collar and walked toward the lobby. Through the window, I could see a taxi pulling into the circular drive, doors opening, familiar figures emerging into afternoon sunlight. Jennifer stepped out first, shading her eyes. Kevin followed, already surveying the property with proprietary assessment. Dennis and Patricia emerged from the other side, Patricia immediately photographing the entrance. They had no idea what waited inside. I stepped back from the window, positioned myself in the office hallway where I could observe the reception desk. Amanda moved to her station. Marcus took his customary position near the entrance, and I checked my watch one final time. 3 o'clock. The front doors opened and my family walked into my hotel. The lobby air conditioning met them with a gentle rush. I watched from the hallway as they took in the space, smaller than they'd expected, probably, but beautiful in its tropical simplicity. Ceiling fans turned lazily overhead. Potted palms flanked the reception desk. Through the far windows, the pool glittered turquoise against ocean blue. Kevin approached the desk first, assertive confidence in every step. He slapped his credit card on the polished wood. "Morgan, party of 4. We have the Deluxe Ocean View Suite reserved." Amanda took the card with professional courtesy, began typing. Her screen showed the reassignments I'd implemented. She paused, exactly as we'd rehearsed. "Yes, Mr. Morgan. I have your reservation. There's been a slight adjustment due to ownership transition." "Adjustment?" Kevin interrupted. "We booked months ago. If you'll just wait in the lobby area, I'll have everything ready shortly." She gestured toward the seating area, wicker furniture with tropical cushions, a coffee table displaying resort brochures. Kevin sighed with exaggerated patience and turned away. Jennifer settled onto the sofa, pulling out her phone. Dennis and Patricia remained standing, photographing the decor, Patricia touching a potted orchid to see if it was real. I stepped from the hallway, tablet in hand, accompanied by Marcus, who'd been briefed to follow my lead. I walked with the measured authority of someone reviewing daily operations, checking my screen, seemingly absorbed in resort business. Professional, unhurried, in control. I was 10 feet from them when Jennifer glanced up. Her face went through a rapid sequence. Casual attention, recognition, confusion. Her mouth opened slightly. "Dad?" The word hung in the air. Kevin's head snapped around. Dennis and Patricia froze mid-photograph. I looked up as if just noticing them. Showed no surprise whatsoever. "Dad, what are you doing here?" Jennifer's voice carried genuine bewilderment. Kevin's confusion shifted to anger in an instant. "Are you serious? You followed us." I met his gaze evenly. "I work here." That stopped him. His expression cycled through incomprehension, then settled into contempt. He laughed, a harsh, incredulous sound that echoed off the tile. "You work here? What, you got a job at our resort to spy on us?" Dennis moved closer to Patricia, whispering too loudly. "This is inappropriate, completely inappropriate." "This is harassment," Kevin said, voice rising, taking an aggressive step forward. "I want you out of here. Now." Other guests in the lobby turned to watch. A couple at the opposite sofa exchanged glances. An elderly man reading a newspaper lowered it, slowly. I didn't move. "I'm conducting business. Your business is ruining our vacation. Get out." Jennifer stood, trying to insert herself between us. "Kevin, maybe we should—" "No." He cut her off, then turned to Amanda. "Get your manager. Get security. I want this man removed from the property." Amanda signaled Marcus, who moved smoothly forward, not threatening, just present. Professional hospitality industry de-escalation, positioning himself, creating space, radiating calm authority. Sir, please lower your voice, Amanda said. You're disturbing other guests? Kevin's face reddened. I'm disturbing? He's the one stalking his own daughter. Marcus stepped closer, voice quiet but firm. Gentlemen, let's keep things calm, Kevin rounded on him. Tell this man he needs to leave. We're paying guests. Amanda stood, drawing every eye in the lobby. When she spoke, her voice carried perfect clarity, each word distinct. Mr. Wilson is the owner of Paradise Cove Resort. As of August 19th, you are his guests. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the ceiling fans seemed to quiet. The couple on the sofa stared openly now. The elderly man had abandoned all pretense of reading. Kevin's mouth worked soundlessly. Owner? Jennifer looked at me, color draining from her face. You bought this hotel? I met her eyes. I did. Patricia's phone clattered to the tile floor. Dennis grabbed his wife's arm, steadying them both. Kevin recovered first, aggression surging back. This is insane. You can't. I can, I said, cutting him off with the same calm I'd maintained throughout. I did. Now, Ms. Parker will finish your check-in. Your rooms are ready. Kevin's fists clenched at his sides. His breathing had quickened, face still flushed. We booked in good faith. This is our vacation. You can't just... Your reservation stands, Amanda interjected smoothly. Paradise Cove Resort honors all existing bookings. There have been some adjustments due to the ownership transition, which is standard practice. If you'd like to review... I don't want to review anything with him here. Kevin's voice had dropped to something dangerous. This is a setup. This whole thing is a setup. For the first time, I allowed myself a small smile. This is a hotel. You made a reservation. You're checking in. Everything is entirely standard. Jennifer sank back onto the sofa, still staring at me like I was someone she'd never met, which, I suppose, was accurate. How long have you... She couldn't finish the question. I closed the purchase on Friday. That's 2 days ago, Dennis said faintly. We booked 3 months ago. Ownership changes happened, I said. The property was listed. I made an offer. Business. Kevin turned to Amanda, ignoring me completely. Fine. We'll check in, and then we'll be filing a complaint. With the tourism board. With consumer protection. This is fraud. You're welcome to file whatever complaints you wish, Amanda replied. Your confirmation number is in our system. Everything is documented. Shall I continue with check-in? She slid the registration form across the desk. Kevin snatched a pen and signed with violent strokes. Jennifer sat motionless, phone forgotten in her lap. Patricia had retrieved her phone from the floor but seemed uncertain what to do with it. Dennis kept glancing between me and Kevin, calculating something. Amanda typed efficiently, then reached beneath the desk for keycards. She set 2 on the counter. You're in rooms 12 and 14. Second floor. The porter will help with your bags. Wait. Kevin's eyes narrowed. 12 and 14. We booked the Deluxe Ocean View Suite. Due to ownership transition and property updates, some reassignments were necessary. You were notified via email 72 hours prior to check-in. We received no email. Amanda turned her monitor to show him. Sent Monday morning at 9 a.m. to the email address on file. morgankp@outlook.com. Kevin pulled out his phone, scrolled violently through his inbox. His face changed as he found it. He read, his jaw tightening with each line. This says the rates increased, 40% across all services. That's correct. New ownership implemented updated pricing. Again, you were notified within the legal window for modification. This is... He looked at me, understanding finally dawning in full. You did this deliberately. I said nothing. Didn't need to. Jennifer stood slowly, moving to the desk, taking one of the key cards with a hand that visibly trembled. She still hadn't looked at me again. Couldn't, maybe. Your rooms are on the second floor, Amanda repeated. Breakfast is included, served 6 to 10 a.m. in the restaurant. Checkout is 11 a.m. on the 28th. Do you have any other questions? Kevin opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. No, he finally said. Wonderful. Enjoy your stay at Paradise Cove Resort. The porter approached with their luggage cart. Jennifer followed him toward the stairs like someone in a dream. Patricia held Dennis's arm as they trailed behind. Kevin remained at the desk a moment longer, staring at me with undisguised hatred. "You'll regret this," he said quietly. "Perhaps," I acknowledged, "but not today." He grabbed the second keycard and followed his family toward the stairs. I watched them climb, Jennifer's shoulders rigid, Kevin's posture radiating fury, Dennis and Patricia whispering urgently between themselves. Marcus moved to stand beside me. "That went exactly like you planned," he observed. "It did. What happens when they see the rooms?" I checked my watch. "In approximately 3 minutes, they'll discover that standard rooms have parking lot views, lower water pressure, and older air conditioning units. They'll realize the minibar prices have doubled. They'll notice the bathroom amenities are basic rather than premium. And then they'll come back down here to complain." I straightened my tablet, and Ms. Parker will politely explain that everything meets the stated accommodation standards, and no refunds are available for bookings made under previous ownership. Through the second-floor windows, I could see movement in room 12. A door opening, Jennifer stepping inside, Kevin behind her, stopping abruptly in the doorway. I heard the muffled sound of raised voices. Amanda caught my eye from behind the desk. I nodded once. The show had just begun. The porter left us in the hallway. Jennifer slid her keycard into room 12's lock, the green light blinking permission. She pushed the door open and stepped inside, then stopped. I watched from the lobby's security camera feed in my office. Amanda had positioned the monitor where I could observe without being obvious. Jennifer stood motionless in the doorway, taking in the standard room with its parking lot view, the dated furniture, the narrow bathroom visible through the half-open door. This wasn't the Deluxe Ocean View suite shown in their booking photos. She walked to the window like someone underwater, movements slow and dreamlike, pulled the curtain aside, stared at the parking lot, the dumpster enclosure, a maintenance shed with peeling paint. Kevin pushed past her into room 14, his parents' assigned space, already complaining. I couldn't hear the words through the camera, but his gestures were clear enough. Arms spread wide, pointing at the window. Dennis appeared behind him, face sagging with comprehension. Patricia sank onto the bed, still clutching her purse. Within 10 minutes, my desk phone rang. Amanda's voice, professional. "Ms. Morgan, on line 2 regarding her room assignment." I listened to the recorded call later, Jennifer's voice tight with restrained anger. "We booked a Deluxe Ocean View suite. This is a standard room with a parking lot view." Amanda's response, exactly as scripted. "I apologize for the confusion, Ms. Morgan. During the ownership transition, we had to reassign several reservations due to renovation scheduling. Your rate remains the same. Can we upgrade? Pay the difference? I'm afraid the Deluxe rooms are fully booked through your checkout date." Jennifer hung up without responding. That evening they attempted dinner at our restaurant, the only dining option within walking distance. I'd positioned myself at a corner table with paperwork spread before me, reviewing actual operational reports while remaining visible. Professional, untouchable, the owner conducting business. When their menus arrived, Kevin's expression shifted. He pulled out his phone, scrolling through screenshots he'd saved of our old pricing. His jaw tightened. The server approached his summons with practiced patience. "These prices don't match your website." "New management implemented updated pricing yesterday, sir. All platforms were updated simultaneously." Kevin looked across the restaurant at me. I didn't acknowledge his gaze, just signed the document Amanda had brought for approval. He approached my table a moment later, Dennis trailing reluctantly behind. I looked up with mild attention. "The prices on this menu don't match what's on your website." New management, new pricing. Updated yesterday across all platforms. That's convenient timing. That's business, Kevin. If the rates don't suit you, I'm sure other properties would welcome your reservation. His face colored. "The nearest hotel is 15 miles away." I returned to my paperwork. "Then I suppose our rates are competitive?" He stood there another moment, breathing through his nose before returning to his table. Their simple dinner, nothing extravagant, just entrees and drinks, cost them $180 before tip. I watched Patricia's face when the bill arrived. She looked like she'd bitten something sour. The next morning brought new complications. At precisely 6 a.m., maintenance began work on the hot water system. The pipes ran through the walls adjacent to rooms 12 and 14. The sound was impressive. Hammering, clanging, water rushing through old plumbing. Perfectly legal. Perfectly timed. I conducted my morning property walk through at 6:15, clipboard in hand, happening to pass their rooms just as Dennis emerged in his bathrobe, hair standing at angles, looking haggard. Morning, sorry for the noise. Necessary repairs. Should wrap up by 7. He blinked at me, too tired to form a response. I continued my inspection, noting items on my clipboard that had nothing to do with him. By the third day, the pattern was undeniable. Wi-Fi became unstable, functional in the lobby and restaurant, mysteriously dropping in their specific rooms. Our technician shrugged apologetically. Island infrastructure. Sometimes signals don't reach certain areas. Room service orders were delayed, not excessively, nothing actionable, but 60 to 90 minutes instead of the promised 30 to 45. Kitchen backup during peak hours happened sometimes. Pool hours were adjusted for cleaning. The announcement went to all guests. Routine maintenance 2 to 4 p.m. daily. Prime afternoon hours. Dennis and Patricia had planned to spend those hours poolside. Each incident alone was minor. Together, they were suffocating. Kevin documented everything. I saw him through the window, photographing his parking lot view, timing his room service order with his phone's stopwatch, recording the Wi-Fi disconnection. He was building a case, collecting evidence. For what, exactly, I wasn't sure. But it didn't concern me. Everything I'd implemented fell within acceptable hotel operations. Maintenance happened. Wi-Fi had outages. Kitchens experienced delays. There was no violation of any standard or law, just consistent inconvenience. On August 23rd, Kevin confronted me near reception. Laptop open, showing documentation. The Wi-Fi in our rooms doesn't work. I glanced at his screen. Amanda mentioned connectivity issues. We've contacted the service provider. When will it be fixed? I checked my watch. They indicated 24 to 48 hours for technician availability. The business center and lobby have stable connections if you need internet access. This is ridiculous. This is island infrastructure. I don't control the telecommunications provider's schedule. He slammed his laptop closed and walked away. By August 24th evening, the family was fragmenting. I observed from my office window as Jennifer sat alone by the pool. During the brief hours it remained open. Kevin paced nearby, phone pressed to his ear, probably researching alternatives, finding none in their price range. Dennis and Patricia huddled under an umbrella, whispering with tight urgency, occasionally glancing toward Jennifer with expressions that weren't sympathetic. They were blaming each other, assigning fault. The pressure was working exactly as designed. That night I saw lights burning late in room 14. Dennis and Patricia were awake, probably discussing their options, finding none acceptable. In room 12, Jennifer's silhouette moved past the window repeatedly, pacing, unable to settle. Kevin's light stayed on past midnight. Through the thin walls, maintenance staff reported hearing keyboard clicks, rapid, aggressive typing. I made a note on my tablet, monitoring required, then returned to actual operational business. Vendor contracts that needed review, a staffing issue Amanda had flagged, quarterly projections for my other properties. Paradise Cove was a real hotel. I was running it properly, improving systems, addressing genuine maintenance needs. That the Morgan family happened to be experiencing the transitional growing pains of new ownership was simply unfortunate timing, or perfect timing, depending on perspective. The next morning, Amanda called my cell at 8. "Sir, you should know the family posted several negative reviews overnight." I wasn't surprised. How bad? 1 star across 3 platforms. Language is aggressive. Accusations of discrimination and harassment. Are any allegations factually accurate? No. Everything we did was within policy and law. Draft professional responses, acknowledge dissatisfaction, reference ownership transition, offer general commitment to service improvement. Don't engage with specific accusations. Already started. I'll send them for your approval. I pulled up the reviews on my laptop. Dennis and Patricia's was venomous. Owner engages in targeted harassment. After discovering personal connection, systematically degraded our experience. Unethical business practices. Discriminatory treatment. Avoid at all costs. Kevin's used legal-sounding language. Breach of contract regarding room assignments. Unauthorized price increases. Owner has clear conflict of interest. Consumer rights violations. Will be pursuing legal recourse. I read them twice, analytical rather than emotional. They were angry, desperate, grasping for weapons they didn't have. My responses, drafted carefully and reviewed by Amanda, went live by noon. We regret this guest's dissatisfaction. Ownership transitions occasionally require operational adjustments as we work to improve service standards. We appreciate all feedback and remain committed to providing quality hospitality. Professional, unassailable, untouchable. In room 14, I imagined Kevin refreshing the review sites, seeing my response, realizing it gave him nothing to attack. 3 more days until checkout. 3 more days until they'd face the bill, calculated at new rates, including all service charges, resort fees, and incidentals. 3 more days until they'd return to Orlando and discover what I'd done with the house. I smiled briefly, alone in my office, then returned to work. Kevin's response appeared online at 7 the next morning, detailed, methodical, citing specific statutes he'd researched about consumer protection in the Virgin Islands. He'd spent hours on it. I could tell from the precise timestamps, the legal citations, the desperate professionalism of someone grasping for leverage. It was impressive. It was also useless. By 9 a.m., he was sitting in a local attorney's office. I learned this later from Amanda, who heard it from our restaurant server who'd overheard Kevin making the appointment by phone. Small island, small resort, information traveled. The consultation cost him $350. I knew because he complained about it loudly to Jennifer in the hallway afterward, voice carrying through their open door. The attorney had found nothing actionable. Price changes were legally implemented with required notice. Room reassignments during ownership transitions were within hotel rights. Maintenance was routine. Wi-Fi failures were infrastructure issues, not intentional service denial. He said we can leave negative reviews or find alternative accommodation, Kevin told Jennifer, voice tight with barely contained fury. That's it. That's our legal recourse. Jennifer's response was too quiet to hear, but Kevin's follow-up wasn't. $350 to be told we're screwed. An hour later, my phone rang. Jennifer's name on the screen. I answered on the 3rd ring. Hello, Jennifer. Breathing. Ragged. Unsteady. Then, how could you do this to us? Her voice was breaking. She'd been crying. I could hear it in the thickness of her words, the way they came in gasps. How could you do this to your own daughter? I kept my tone measured, calm. I'm conducting business. You wanted a vacation without me. You have one. You're punishing us. This is cruel. This is what you chose. I'm simply providing the service you're paying for. When we get back, her voice rose to something near hysteria. When we get back, we're evicting you from our house. We'll sell it whether you like it or not. Ice crystallized in my chest. This was the moment I'd anticipated, prepared for. Try it. 2 words, delivered flat, final. She sobbed once, loud and harsh. Then the line went dead. I sat in my Paradise Cove office, phone still in hand, and considered the conversation. Jennifer was unraveling. Good. Kevin was desperate, throwing money at attorneys who couldn't help him. Better. Dennis and Patricia were humiliated, their bragging to neighbors now a source of mortification. Perfect. But the house threat required immediate attention. I booked an afternoon flight to Orlando. Michael Thompson's office was exactly as I remembered. Modest, professional, paperwork organized in precise stacks. He had the trust documents ready, printed and tabbed with colored flags marking where I needed to sign. This makes the property untouchable without your explicit authorization, he explained, sliding the first page across his desk. Your daughter cannot force sale, cannot claim inheritance rights while you're living, cannot even contest the arrangement without significant legal expense. That's exactly what I need. He studied me briefly. May I ask what prompted this level of protection? Family complications. Michael nodded wisely, asking nothing further. Sign here, and initial the final page. I worked through the documents methodically. Each signature, each initial, another lock on something Jennifer thought she could take from me. When Margaret and I bought this house in 1999, Jennifer was 11 years old, running through the empty rooms before we'd even moved furniture in. She'd claimed the bedroom with the window seat, made us promise it would always be hers. I'd kept that promise for 26 years. Now she wanted to sell it to pay off credit cards. Speaking of which, at Michael's desk, I pulled up my credit monitoring service on my phone. I'd co-signed on 2 of Jennifer's cards years ago when she was establishing credit. The linked accounts showed in my report $48,000 in debt. I scrolled through the details. Multiple credit cards, all opened or significantly increased within the last 6 months. A personal loan from a predatory lender at 18% interest. Cash advances. Balance transfers. The pattern of people juggling. Desperate. Counting on money they didn't have yet. Counting on my house. I took a screenshot, then another of the timeline. The debt accumulation had accelerated in June, around the time Kevin had announced the vacation, around the time they'd started planning to pressure me into selling. They'd spent money they expected to get from my equity. Everything looks in order, Michael said, applying his notary seal to the final page. I'll file these with the county recorder this afternoon. You'll have complete protection. I slid one copy into my briefcase, left another with Michael, and carried the third to my car. The flight back to St. Thomas didn't leave until the next morning, so I spent the night in my own home, my legally protected, completely controlled home. I walked through the rooms Jennifer wanted to sell, touching the walls Margaret had helped paint, standing in the kitchen where we'd made breakfast for 30 years. Jennifer could threaten all she wanted. This house was mine. I returned to Paradise Cove on the morning of August 26th. Amanda met me in the office with updates. The Morgan family was subdued, spending minimal time in their rooms, avoiding the restaurant where prices hurt too much. They discovered a food truck 3 miles down the road and were walking there for cheaper meals. The heat is getting to them, Amanda reported. Mrs. Morgan, the older one, looked sunburned and exhausted yesterday. And the reviews? Your responses are posted. Professional. Brief. We've had 3 new bookings since yesterday. Guests who read the reviews and our responses and appreciated our transparency about the transition period. Good. The negative reviews were actually helping. People understood that ownership changes created temporary disruption. My measured responses demonstrated professionalism. Kevin's attacks were backfiring. I pulled up the reviews again, reading them with fresh perspective. All that rage, all those accusations, all that desperate legal language, it made him look unreasonable, especially against my calm acknowledgement of temporary difficulties. One more thing, Amanda said. Mr. Morgan asked about early checkout. He wanted to know if leaving a day early would reduce their bill. I looked up. What did you tell him? That our cancellation policy requires full payment for reserve dates regardless of early departure. He'd still owe for 7 nights. Good. She hesitated. He asked what the final bill would total. I calculated it for him. With the updated rates, all meals and services, resort fees, incidentals, it's approximately $4,200. More than double what they'd budgeted for, I imagined. More than they'd expected when Kevin had smugly poured my wine at my dining table, when Jennifer had said they needed a break from me. When he heard the amount, Amanda continued, he went pale, said there must be an error. Is there? No. Everything is accurate according to current pricing and their usage. Then there's no error. I spent the rest of August 26th reviewing actual business operations. Paradise Cove had guests besides the Morgans, after all, and they deserved proper service. I approved Amanda's staffing schedule, reviewed the quarterly maintenance budget, and met with our food vendor about supply chain improvements. By evening, I was genuinely tired from legitimate work. Through my office window, I saw the Morgan family sitting separately around the pool. Not together, separately. Jennifer on one lounge chair, Kevin on another 10 feet away. Dennis and Patricia at a table. Dennis reading something on his tablet. Patricia staring at nothing. They'd stopped talking to each other. The vacation they'd been so excited about, the exclusive boutique resort experience they'd bragged about to neighbors, had become a prison sentence they were enduring in isolated silence. One more day until checkout. One more day until they'd face that $4,200 bill. One more day until they'd return to Orlando and discover the house was beyond their reach. I opened my briefcase, pulled out the trust document copy, and read through it one final time. Every clause, every protection, every guarantee of my absolute control. The house was mine, alone. And from Amanda's report, they had no idea what waited for them at checkout. I allowed myself a moment of satisfaction. Not joy, not cruelty, just the cold satisfaction of pieces falling into place exactly as designed. Then returned the document to my briefcase and locked it. Tomorrow would bring the final moves. Tonight, I'd let them sit with their expensive mediocrity, their shattered vacation dreams, their fragmenting family unity. Tonight, I'd let them wonder what else I'd planned. They'd find out soon enough. I spent August 26th reviewing final details with Amanda. The Morgan family, she reported, had requested early checkout, departing the 27th instead of the 28th, trying to escape a day early as if leaving sooner would somehow erase what had happened. They seem eager to get home, Amanda said diplomatically. I imagine they are. She pulled up their account on her screen. The final bill is ready for review. I studied the itemization. Room charges at current rates, restaurant meals, room service orders, resort fees, incidentals. Every charge legitimate, every price legally posted. The mathematics of consequence, calculated down to the last dollar. Process it exactly as shown, I said. No adjustments. Morning of the 27th, I watched from my office window as they carried luggage to the reception area. Dennis moved slowly, looking older than he had a week ago. Patricia kept her sunglasses on despite being indoors. Kevin's posture was rigid, controlled fury in every movement. Jennifer walked last, shoulders curved inward, diminished. Amanda greeted them with professional courtesy. Good morning. Checking out? Kevin placed his keycards on the counter with precision. Yes. Early departure. Of course. Amanda's fingers moved across the keyboard. The printer hummed to life, producing the final bill. She placed it face down on the counter, slid it toward Kevin with practiced grace. He picked it up confidently, flipped it over. His hand froze midair. I couldn't hear his exact words from my office, but I saw his mouth form them. This says $4,200. Amanda's response was calm, rehearsed. She gestured to the itemized breakdown, explained each section. Updated rates, dining expenses, resort fees, all documented, all legal. Kevin's voice rose. Other guests in the lobby glanced over. Amanda maintained her professional composure, referencing terms and conditions, ownership transition clauses, email notifications sent August 19th. Kevin pulled out his credit card, tapped it against the terminal. Declined. He tried again, entering the PIN manually this time. Declined. He yanked out a different card. The terminal beeped rejection. His face was white now, a sheen of sweat visible on his forehead despite the air conditioning. He turned to Dennis. I couldn't hear the exchange, but Dennis shook his head slowly, looking at the floor. Patricia pulled her purse closer to her body, protective. Jennifer stepped forward. She didn't speak, didn't meet Kevin's eyes, just handed Amanda her credit card and stared at the wall while the transaction processed. Approved. She took the receipt, folded it without looking, and put it in her purse. The family moved toward the exit like people leaving a hospital after bad news. Slow, silent, defeated. I didn't watch them drive away. They were no longer my concern. Amanda came to my office an hour later. They're gone. Thank you for handling that professionally. It was difficult to watch, she paused, even knowing the context. Consequences are always difficult. That's what makes them effective. I flew back to Orlando that afternoon. While they traveled in heavy silence, I could imagine it, the four of them unable to look at each other, Kevin staring out the airplane window, Jennifer with her eyes closed, Dennis and Patricia sitting in a different row. I reviewed Amanda's operational reports for the week. Paradise Cove had functioned well. Other guests had left positive reviews. The Morgan family's negative reviews had actually increased bookings. People appreciated my transparent, professional responses. The business was solid. The revenge was complete. I'd timed everything precisely. While they were in St. Thomas, David Richardson had delivered the trust documents to my house. Left in a legal envelope on the kitchen table where they couldn't miss it. They'd arrive home exhausted, financially devastated, emotionally fractured, and they'd find that envelope waiting. I landed in Orlando that evening but didn't go home. Stayed at one of my hotels instead. The boutique property in Winter Park, nice but not ostentatious. I wanted them to discover the documents without me there. Wanted them to read the rental terms, the trust structure, the reality that the house they'd planned to sell was completely beyond their reach. The next morning, August 28th, I returned to my house. The kitchen showed evidence of Kevin's rage. Mail scattered on the floor, a decorative bowl broken, a dent in the wall near the counter. The legal envelope lay torn open, documents strewn across the table. They'd been here. They'd discovered the truth, and they'd left. I cleaned up the broken bowl, stacked the mail, left the dent in the wall. Evidence was useful sometimes. My phone rang that evening. Dennis. Robert. His voice was careful, measured. I wanted to apologize for the condition we left your kitchen in. Kevin was upset. I noticed. Patricia and I had no idea about the house situation. If we'd known... You'd have what? Not taken the vacation you bragged about to your neighbors? Silence. Then quietly, the Hendersons asked how the exclusive resort was. They'd seen the reviews online. Someone posted photos. I'm sure that was awkward. Patricia's mortified. We told everyone this would be a luxury vacation. It was a vacation at a resort. The luxury was your assumption. He exhaled slowly. Kevin and Jennifer are staying with us temporarily, just until they figure things out. That's generous of you. Not really. We can barely afford it. The lawyer consultation, the meal expenses, changing our flights. We're tapped out too. I said nothing. What was there to say? They'd aligned themselves with Kevin and Jennifer's plans. They'd participated in my exclusion, enjoyed the idea of a vacation I wasn't worthy to attend. Now they were experiencing the aftermath. Robert, is there any way... No. You don't know what I was going to ask. Yes, I do. And the answer is no. You made choices. These are the consequences. He hung up without goodbye. 3 hours later, Jennifer called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail, broken, sobbing, barely coherent. Something about $1,800 a month. Something about debt. Something about Kevin blaming her for not controlling me. I listened to it once, then deleted it. This was exactly what needed to happen. They needed to sit with what they'd done, understand the full weight of their choices. Jennifer's tears weren't repentance yet. They were self-pity. She was crying because of consequences, not because she genuinely understood her failures. That night, alone in my house with its dated curtains and worn furniture, I walked through rooms that had raised Jennifer from childhood to adulthood. Her bedroom still had the window seat where she'd read for hours. The kitchen still had the step stool I'd built so she could help Margaret cook. This house was filled with memories of a daughter I'd loved unconditionally. That daughter had disappeared somewhere along the way. Maybe she could come back, maybe not. But I'd done what I needed to do. Shown her that respect matters, that people aren't resources, that fathers, even ones with modest houses and old jackets, have dignity that shouldn't be casually trampled. Whether she learned from this was up to her now. I'd taught the lesson. The rest was hers to figure out. 2 days passed before she knocked on my door. I opened it to find Jennifer diminished. No makeup, simple clothes, exhausted beyond words. Dad, can we talk? I stepped aside. She sat on the sofa's edge, hands folded. I was a terrible daughter. You were always there, and I treated you like you were invisible. I'm so sorry. I kept my expression neutral. I didn't do this for revenge. I did it to show you what respect looks like. She nodded, tears falling. I didn't comfort her. She needed to sit with this. She returned September 2nd, calmer. Kevin and I are divorcing. He blamed me for not controlling you. She showed me divorce papers, credit counselor appointments, job applications. I'm taking responsibility. I wrote 2 options on paper. 1, you and Kevin pay what you owe, then we're done. 2, you stay alone, pay rent, rebuild independently. Maybe we repair things. She pointed to option 2 without hesitation. No money from me, no shortcuts. I'm certain. September 5th, she brought cheap sandwiches. We ate on the terrace. I showed her my hotel portfolio, 4 properties, millions in assets. This was always you? Her voice broke. I didn't want money to change you, but I changed anyway. I became someone who saw you as a resource, not a father. We sat as evening settled. Not forgiveness yet. That required time. But not war anymore either. Same time next week? She asked. Same time. After she left, I stayed on the terrace, thinking about what I'd built. Not the modest existence they'd assumed, but the successful life I'd been living all along. They'd never bothered to see it. Now Jennifer was beginning to. I'd set boundaries, demanded respect, shown her that consequences weren't cruelty, they were clarity. This was never about destroying her. It was about restoring my own dignity, teaching her that people deserve basic consideration, that respect isn't automatic, especially not from family. Jennifer knocked again the following week, and the week after. Each visit she was more grounded. I remained guarded, offered no financial help, but I showed up. Because revenge isn't about destroying others. It's about restoring your own dignity, showing consequences, and then, if they prove worthy, offering the possibility of redemption. Jennifer was working for hers. Whether she'd earn it remained to be seen. But she was trying, and I was willing to let her try. That was enough, for now. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching,